Have you ever felt like you're just constantly fighting against your own mind and body to actually get things done? I mean, we live in this era that absolutely glorifies hustle culture, right? It pushes us to optimize literally every single second of our day. But what if our modern obsession with relentless productivity is actually biologically backward? What if the secret to getting more done isn't, doing more, but rather understanding how our mental health and well-being naturally operate? Today in this explainer, we're going to look at the science of time management, the hidden dangers of goal setting, and a really radical shift in how we approach our daily routines.
It's a question almost all of us ask ourselves at some point. Why does planning feel so incredibly good, but doing feels so incredibly hard? We've all been there. You sit down, you meticulously color-code your calendar, you list out 50 tasks, and you feel this massive surge of accomplishment. But then when it actually comes time to execute, you're just exhausted. If you're tired of these rigid productivity frameworks that leave you feeling burnt out and, frankly, inadequate, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to unpack a science-backed paradigm shift that validates that exhaustion and shows you a much, much smarter way to operate.
Section 1. The Biology of Well-Being. Timing your mind. To understand why we struggle so much, we have to look at the hard science. There was this major British medical journal study that analyzed nearly 1 million observations over 2 years, and it revealed a crystal-clear contrast. Our mental health and well-being naturally peak in the early morning, and they drastically drop around midnight. People consistently report their lowest depressive and anxiety symptoms and their highest levels of happiness and life satisfaction right after waking up. So the absolute crucial point here is this: that end-of-day exhaustion and lack of motivation you feel, it's not a personal failure. It's not a lack of discipline. It is an ingrained biological reality. And it goes beyond just the time of day. This study identified other biological and environmental variables that modify our mental state. So time of day gives us those morning highs and midnight lows, but the day of the week matters too. We see mood peaks on the weekends and significant dips mid-week, specifically on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And the season of the year plays a massive role, with mental health consistently reaching its absolute best levels in the summer and its worst in the winter. So what's the takeaway here? Working with your biology and anticipating these natural dips is just far more effective than trying to relentlessly fight against it.
Section 2. Time management as self-care, the foundation of well-being.
Once we actually accept our biological rhythms, we really have to rethink how we manage our days. Recent clinical research highlights that organizing your time flexibly isn't just about productivity, it actively reduces perceived stress and anxiety. It gives you a sense of control back. But notice that word right there, flexible. A highly rigid schedule, that actually adds stress, particularly when unexpected things pop up, as they always do. True time management requires the flexibility to handle the unexpected, incorporating breaks and leisure, which prevents emotional distress and fatigue.
You can actually see this exact philosophy in the daily routine of Benjamin Franklin. Notice how much of his day was completely insulated from traditional work. The guy woke up at 5 a.m. for 3 whole hours of self-care, planning, and asking his famous morning question, "What good shall I do this day?" He worked from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but then he completely disconnected at 6 p.m. from music, diversion, and a daily review, before finally going to sleep at 10 p.m. He built his routine around his natural energy peaks and left massive space for nightly reflection.
Section 3. The Dark Side of Goals. When ambition turns toxic.
Okay, now we arrive at a bit of a plot twist. We are constantly told we need massive, audacious goals, but as a famous Harvard study warns, goal setting is a prescription-strength medication that requires careful dosing, consideration of harmful side effects, and close supervision. I mean, wow, that is a stunning way to look at it. Rather than being some harmless, over-the-counter motivation booster, goals can actually be quite dangerous. We really need to break out of the typical more goals are better mindset and start treating our ambitions with serious caution. Because if the dose is wrong, the side effects of toxic goals are severe. Research shows that overly specific or overly challenging goals lead to a rise in unethical behavior, they cause us to neglect non-measured areas, and they reduce intrinsic motivation. Basically, people start sacrificing quality just to hit a number. Think of historic corporate collapses like Enron, right? Sales reps were incentivized purely on revenue volume, completely ignoring if the trades were actually sound. Or auto mechanics at Sears who overcharged customers just to meet their hourly revenue targets. When goals are way too challenging, people stop innovating and they start gaming the system. And that just leads to burnout and a totally corrosive culture.
Section 4. Planning versus reviewing. Finding your true north.
So,
How do we safely navigate productivity without falling into that toxic goal trap? The answer is shifting our focus away from planning and towards reviewing. Think of it like this. Planning sets the intention. It's your map. But reviewing creates awareness. It's your compass. You can have a flawlessly color-coded map, but if you don't use your compass to stop and actually check if you are walking north, well, you're simply lost with good intentions. Planning repeats your assumptions. Reviewing adjusts based on reality.
I absolutely love this punchy takeaway from the Reddit productivity community. A messy plan with a strict review beats a perfect plan with no review every time. It perfectly resets how we should direct our attention. Actually, scratch spending hours trying to craft the perfect daily schedule. Spend a few minutes at the end of the day figuring out what actually worked, what drained your energy, and where you got sidetracked. That feedback loop, that is the real secret to improvement.
Section 5. The Review Ritual. Building your sustainable routine.
To build this compass into your life, let's look at a couple of actionable frameworks. First up, the daily review strategy. Remember what we learned about our mental health peaking in the morning? Well, that is exactly when you should do a quick 5-minute review. Pick only one most important goal per aspect of your life. Please don't overwhelm yourself with a massive list. Write those goals down every single morning. The purpose here isn't to meticulously track your progress. It's to build motivation, enhance your commitment, and protect your focus from those inevitable distractions that are going to pop up by 2 p.m. when your biology naturally starts to drag.
Then we zoom out to the weekly review. A really famous methodology here is David Allen's Getting Things Done, or GTD approach. This is a dedicated hour you set aside, maybe Friday afternoon or Sunday evening, to just step back from the daily grind. Step 1, get clear, by emptying your head and processing any loose notes. Step 2, get current, by checking your calendar and updating those to-do lists. And finally, Step 3, get creative. Because you've cleared out all that mental clutter, you now have the breathing room to think about bold new projects and someday ideas.
During that weekly review, you objectively track your performance so you can adjust your reality. For example, let's say you define a metric like deep work, and your goal was 10 hours, but your actual outcome was only 8. You don't beat yourself up about it, you just define the next action. In this case, maybe you just need to block your calendar better next week. If you wrote 4,000 words instead of your goal of 5,000, your next action might be to download a social media blocker. You're using data to course correct, turning the review into a super powerful tool for self-awareness rather than self-judgment.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. What will your compass reveal when you finally stop obsessing over the map? When you stop fighting your natural biological rhythms? When you stop poisoning yourself with toxic, arbitrary goals? And when you finally trade rigid planning for honest, consistent reviewing? What incredible things will you actually accomplish? Start building your review ritual today. Trust your compass and take your mental well-being back.